Film is not subjective. I started a sort of movie night with a bunch of friends who were passionate about movies, but relatively new to watching challenging films. So I thought I would curate a film night, and then I would expose them to challenging, sophisticated, and altogether life-enriching films, which is what I think the best of the medium has to offer. Now, this may sound sort of pompous or snooty or snobby, but I don't care. I do watch everything, but I am a film snob. I prefer excellence. Not Nolan excellence, but Wong Kar-wai excellence. Kurosawa, Truffaut, Godard, Fellini, the Andersons, the Spikes. That's the excellence that I long for in a film. So the first film I showed this group was Lars von Trier's Dancer in the Dark. It is an absolute masterpiece, one of my favorite filmmakers ever, and one of my favorite films ever. And his stuff in general is not for the faint of heart. It doesn't just wash over you like the latest, Star Wars film. It stays with you. It sticks with you. It is powerful stuff with deep insight and meaning. It pierces your heart and your brain and your soul, and it doesn't let go. I saw it in theaters when it came out, and it stayed with me. Even now, the raw performance of Bjork is one of the top 2 or 3 greatest performances by an actress ever. The soundtrack is shattering. The end and the meaning imbued in it will break your heart. It is a masterwork. Now, I would often introduce these films with a little backstory about them. In this case, the Dogma 95 theory and the film movement from Lars von Trier and a few other of his compatriots. It was a fascinating anti-establishment creed that made for some really interesting films. What they did was they wanted to strip away the artifice. They wanted to strip away everything. If you couldn't just shoot it with natural lighting and a couple of small digital cameras and maybe a microphone, then you didn't get to do it. That was it. It was very stripped down. There was a handful of filmmakers a part of this, and Lars von Trier did a couple of films like this. Then we would watch the film, and after the weight of that ending had subsided a little, we would discuss. We'd discuss the meaning and the intention. Not how we felt about it or how we perceived it. Those are basically irrelevant. But was the meaning and the intention clear? Because that is what makes an excellent film. Now, how you feel about it and your perception of it is largely based on your own personal experiences, emotional sophistication, wisdom, education, all of these things. But for a great film, those things really don't matter. The complexity of the intellectual argument and the emotion and how effectively and truthfully it was expressed is the nature of great films. The more complex the idea or emotion, the more challenging and rare the film is to pull off. So when it's done well, it blows you away and it stays with you. Now, although everyone in the group loved the movie and were deeply moved and affected by it, I got the sense that some of them didn't agree that film was objective. That your own personal feelings about a film's content is irrelevant and pointless, and honestly, no one cares. You can have a personal relationship with a bad movie for one reason or another. Nostalgia. Say you're an oyster fisherman in Cedar Key and someone makes a movie about that subject. Then it will speak directly to you. But if there isn't a deeper level or meaning to it that is universal, then who cares? Now, some films require multiple viewings, and sometimes you just have to grow a little bit more and revisit them later on. Emotional sophistication and film literacy matter when you watch some films. I remember reading a review of the ending of Truffaut's 400 Blows, and the person thought that when Antoine gets to the ocean, that he finally understands that he's trapped, that there's nowhere left to run. He's been running from his family, his school, and the authorities, and when he gets to the ocean, that he realizes that's it, and that's the look on his face. But I have a different view of it. I feel like anyone who's been to the beach, you don't go there to feel trapped. You go there because there's a sense of freedom to it. You look out at the expanse of ocean, you hear the waves crashing, you see the horizon, and you realize there's a much bigger world out there. I think that is more the look on Antoine's face at the end. Remember, in France, rebelliousness is a sort of birthright. You know, they're taught at an early age to rebel. You know, Antoine's character is a very rebellious kid. He's rebelling against his family. He's a very creative kid. He's a very intellectually curious kid. He rebels against his teachers and then eventually rebels against authorities. Now, there is something to be said about that like you can't just rebel forever. But I think it's such a different way of thinking than American audiences. We're taught in America to listen to authorities, your parents, your teachers, the law. But over there, it's a different feeling. So I feel like having that knowledge helps you weigh the meaning of those final shots. And that is the point that I'm trying to make, that there's meaning imbued in things, and with a certain level of experience, emotional sophistication, a little bit of education, and just education of film language in general will help you sort of grasp the meaning to difficult films, but also appreciate the layers in some of these films. All right, that is it from me. I'll see you in the next video.